My name is Batavia, and I am here to share my backyard garden with you. This is part 2 of a video. I'll put part 1 in the description, the link in the description box, so you can check that out. Okie doke, so we're going to do a quick rundown of what's in each bed, and then we're going to actually dig into each bed. So the cage baby is bed number 6. Next to her is bed number 7, mostly peppers and some sunflowers, which are really cool. First year planting those. And then both of those beds are in ground. On the patio, I have bed number 8 for collard greens and some cabbage. Bed number 9 is primarily for fall planting. Far back corner is bed number 10 for herbs. And then the strawberry bed is bed number 11. So the cage baby is bed number 6, and it's for kind of grown up tomatoes. And the whole goal of the cage baby is to prevent the squirrels from getting to the tomatoes before I can get to them. So over the years, and some of you all may have experienced this, I found, countless tomatoes throughout the summer on the patio or on the porch, and they're ripe and they have bites taken out of them. And in my area, those are squirrels that have basically decided to munch away. I've read they do that based on thirst. But after kind of trying to come up with different remedies over the years, I asked a good friend to build this cage last year. And I'm so happy to report that last year, not a single tomato was lost. So I came into this year saying, with confidence, I'll have all of the tomatoes. And so I've planted from left to right a brandy wine heirloom tomato. And then I have a orange oxheart tomato. Both of those are heirlooms, and I've never planted either of those before, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to taste like. Then I have a big boy tomato plant. It's a kind of red tomato, pretty standard, and next to it is a green zebra, which is really cool. Second year I've planted it. And then I have a traditional red beefsteak tomato plant. So that's what it looked like in June. This is what it looks like towards the end of August. Everything is just growing wild. I've actually had to tie up, of course, some of these tomato vines, just so, they're not sprawling all around the cage. But I do want to share inside. So these are some of the plants, kind of grown up. That's a brandywine tomato, and the next one's a brandywine as well. I don't have a whole bunch of brandywine tomatoes on the plant, but the ones that are there are pretty big. So this is the big boy tomato. So the one in front seems pretty big, but the one in back that's gotten ripe wasn't as big as I would have expected. But what are you going to do? Here we have a red beefsteak tomato plant, and I've actually harvested those first few that were red, and the ones that were pink have since turned red. So this is where I break the rule that I was so adamant about. So there are tomatoes outside of the cage. These tomatoes are cherry tomatoes that I've put on either side. I've already seen squirrels with tomatoes in their mouths on the fence. So I know I'm not going to get all of the tomatoes off of these plants, but it's okay because my hope is that I will get most of them off of the plants. So you can see even on the other side, I have a dwarf tomato, and I've tried to kind of section it off with the hopes that the squirrels won't realize what's happening there. So we'll see how successful that is. The last thing I have in the cage baby is beets. First time growing them. I've eaten them over the years, but never grown them before. And they're doing okay so far as I can tell. So I'm going to move ahead to bed number 7, which is the pepper bed. So this pepper bed it's mixed results this season. There's been some sickness with some of the plants. I've actually had to pull some out. Some are still looking pretty sickly, but they're still producing peppers. This is a case where a pepper plant is doing just fine. This is a jalapeno pepper plant. And then I also have a pretty healthy bell pepper plant. So these are some pretty big bell peppers as well. I'm waiting for these to actually get to kind of full ripe state. I've read that it's truly ripe when it's changed to the color it's supposed to be. So, green peppers are technically not ripe. So they have better nutrition once they get to the state of being ripe. So I'm waiting for these to turn red. So these are some of the other pepper plants that don't look so great, but they're producing peppers. This is a garden salsa pepper plant. You know, the long green peppers that have turned red, some in the back. Next to it is a sweet banana pepper. I just really like this plant because at any time you can have a yellow pepper on it, that then another pepper that's started as green, turned yellow, then turned orange, and then even turned red if you have enough time and if you let it. More of the garden salsa. There's a story to be told there. We'll come back to that. And then if I come to the corner, since again, those are plants that don't look as healthy, here is one that is kicking butt. This is the poblano pepper plant. And this pepper plant has produced so many peppers. It's grown tall and bushy, and I am just watching it flourish. I'm waiting until some of these turn red before I start to harvest them. Next up is a serrano pepper plant. It's kind of curled there. You can see some of them have started to turn red as well, and I'll start to take those off of the plants. I use those for things like dressings, when I'm making dressings, or if I'm adding it to some type of sauce to make it a bit spicy. I think it's in the jalapeno pepper family. I'll have to look into that. Next up is the cayenne pepper plant. So this one's doing pretty good as well. It looks pretty healthy. I have a bunch of ripe red cayenne peppers on it. I'm going to use this pepper plant to create, kind of crushed red pepper flakes. I don't have any in my cabinet now, and I've been waiting on this plant to basically produce them. I am going to try for the first time to dehydrate them, or I guess dry them out in the oven, and then just crush them up to create the pepper flake. So I'm excited about trying that. Next is the story that I want to share. So the pepper debacle. I really love jalapeno peppers, and I want to can them. And this would be the first year that I was going to do it. But I mistakenly, instead of buying 6 jalapeno pepper plants, I bought 1 jalapeno pepper plant and 5 garden salsa plants. Not my intention at all. And now I'm trying to figure out, without many ripe tomatoes, what to do with all of these garden salsa pepper plants. So we'll see. Next up is bed number 8. No, I think that's bed number 8. So that is the collard green bed. So, with gardening, some things work really well, other things don't. Some things require more attention, others don't. This is a bed that requires attention. So I have had this trouble in years past where there's something eating away at the collard green leaves. And in this case, it is the cabbage worm. So I used to think that the white moths that used to kind of fly around were so pretty. Oh, it's so pretty, and they're going to different things and flowers and veggies, until I realized some years back that they are actually laying eggs on specifically brassicas they love. So they lay eggs on the brassicas, and that egg turns into a cabbage worm. It's a green worm that is really hard to see unless you're really looking for it. But what it does is it starts to bite away at the leaves of, whatever the plants are here. So if you give it enough time, it will actually eat the entire leaf. So I planted these back in June, did not cover them. And then when I covered them, it was kind of too late. The cabbage worms were already under, attack. And so then I kind of started doing some remedies, and I thought I recovered. And then I noticed that some leaves were continuing to be attacked. So this is it goes back and forth. I'm just hoping to get 1 pot of collard greens out of all of this. But the same bed, and it's crazy because the cabbage is just kicking butt. So the cabbage here is an early variety. I think it's 60 to 70 days from planting to harvest. And then on the other side, I have a more regular variety, I guess, where it's kind of the normal time frame, like either 100 or 110 days. This was all a part of an experiment, though, to see if these cabbage would do better sitting on the patio versus the cabbage that I have in the in-ground bed. So far, these cabbage look to be healthier and performing much better than the ones that are in the in-ground bed. So not a scientific study, but, the vegetables don't lie. So next up is bed number 9. This really is There's an experiment going on in here, but this is primarily reserved for my fall plantings. And I have a video coming up on that where I'll share what I plan on planting in the fall. So stay tuned for that. But the experiment is a couple of okra plants that are in the bed, as well as one more jalapeno pepper plant. The whole goal here, remember, I made the mad dash out and tried to recover, and I basically was sticking jalapeno pepper plants everywhere. But the experiment goes really, again, a comparison similar to the cabbage. Will these plants, okra and the jalapeno pepper plant, grow just as well, better, or worse than the plants that are sitting in the ground compared to these that are sitting on the patio on the concrete? So the jury's still out on that one. I don't think that I really planted them all at the same time, so it's kind of hard to do a true comparison. So far, if I were just to take a look at the plants, it's pretty clear that these plants are not as big and they're not as producing as much fruit as the ones that are on in the beds that are in ground. So final two beds. The herb bed, I've put a couple of strawberries in there because I needed a place to put them. But also I planted cilantro, dill. I have an oregano plant in there. This is perennial mint. I didn't know it was perennial, and I didn't know that it was invasive. So it's taken over most everything. But the dill, which I was going to use to create pickles, pickle the cucumbers, it grew just fine. But my cucumbers have been so slow. So I let the dill go to seed here. Well, go to flower, and then ultimately it would go to seed. But before it could do that, these little caterpillars you see, they have been eating away at the dill, which is just fine by me because they have created and then turned into that black swallowtail butterfly that you just saw. So final bed number 11, strawberries. Back in June, I planted them. They're perennial. They'll come back for the next few years until they die out. This is what they look like today. It's been said, and I've read, you're not supposed to let the plants go to flower and produce strawberries in the first year, but I love strawberries, so I let them do their thing. Now, I appreciate you all staying with me. I wanted to share a treat with you all. So here are some of the harvests that I've taken up over the last couple of days. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.